rock and roll was never meant to play by the rules. From the first hip shake to the last guitar smash, these performers freaked out the gatekeepers of TV and radio. In this video, we'll be taking a look at 12 rock performances that shocked the world and got banned or censored. But every single one of them changed the game forever, and trust me, you won't believe number 11. Number 1. Elvis Presley's Hound Dog, The Milton Berle Show, June 5th, 1956. Elvis didn't just perform on The Milton Berle Show, he detonated a cultural bomb. Wearing a slick black suit and oozing confidence, he stepped up to the mic and launched into Hound Dog. But then he ditched his guitar, bent his knees, and those hips started moving. Slowly, deliberately, seductively. America lost its collective mind. TV critics called it vulgar and animalistic. Religious leaders denounced him from the pulpit. The New York Daily News said he should be arrested for disorderly conduct. The backlash was so fierce it led CBS to film him only from the waist up during future appearances, including the now famous Ed Sullivan Show. But it was too late. Elvis had already become rock and roll's first outlaw. This was the moment when America realized rock and roll wasn't going away, and it wasn't going to behave. If Elvis broke the mold, the next band shoved the mold off stage, and it did it with a sarcastic smirk on live TV. Number 2. The Rolling Stones' Love Anthem, The Ed Sullivan Show, January 15th, 1967. Fast forward a decade and the Ed Sullivan Show was still trying to tame rock stars, but this time, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. Their crime was a little song called Let's Spend the Night Together. Producers were not comfortable with the title, insisting Jagger change the lyric to the more innocent Let's Spend Some Time Together. On air, Jagger complied. Sort of. He exaggerated the line with sarcastic eye rolls so theatrical it might as well have been a middle finger to the censors. Some local stations still refused to air the segment, scandalized by the mere idea of spending the night together. But the Stones, they didn't care. The controversy that followed even made them more popular. Let's Spend the Night Together became a rebellious anthem, and the Ed Sullivan Show ended up looking like the fussy old grandpa yelling at the kids to turn the racket down. Once again, rock music proved, if you try to put it in a box, it'll just tear the box apart. If the Stones gave the censors a cheeky wink, the Doors kicked the whole door down. What happened next made live TV history, and got them banned for good. Number 3. The Doors' drug reference, The Ed Sullivan Show, September 17th, 1967. By the time Jim Morrison and the Doors hit The Ed Sullivan Show, the producers were ready with a new strategy: preemptive censorship. Light My Fire was their hit song, but one line in particular had the suit sweating bullets. Girl, we couldn't get much higher. They begged Morrison to change it. He nodded along, maybe even agreed, but live on air he stared straight into the camera and belted out the lyric exactly as written. Cool, calm, defiant. Backstage, the producers were furious. The aftermath was instant and brutal. The Ed Sullivan Show blacklisted the Doors, promising they would never ever be allowed back. But guess what? Nobody cared. If anything, Morrison's open defiance turned the Doors into immortal icons of 1960s rebellion. Because in rock and roll, the raw moments, the ones you aren't supposed to say, are the ones that echo forever. Morrison may have lit a fire, but across the pond, the Beatles were stirring up their own psychedelic storm. With a track so controversial, the BBC yanked it from the air. Number 4. Beatles' Psychedelic Censorship, BBC ban, June 1967. By 1967, the Beatles weren't just a band, they were a movement. But when they dropped Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the BBC locked in on one track, A Day in the Life. The lyric I'd Love to Turn You On made British censors nervous. They claimed it promoted drug use, and just like that, the track was banned from national airwaves. John Lennon denied it had anything to do with drugs, but the controversy only sharpened the Beatles' evolving image. No longer squeaky clean pop stars, but silent provocateurs. Fans didn't care. They blasted the song on pirate radio, in college dorms, and behind closed doors. Because nothing makes music more powerful than trying to silence it. And as the music world riled up, others began to feel the heat of censorship, especially the Rolling Stones. Number 5. Street Fighting Man, U.S. Radio Boycott, August 1968. 1968 was pure chaos. Protests, riots, Vietnam. So when the Rolling Stones dropped Street Fighting Man, it was a match tossed into a powder keg. Released right as police clashed with protesters at the Democratic National Convention, the song's message felt way too real for some radio stations, especially in Chicago. Fearing it would inspire even more unrest, DJs pulled it from playlists. Some stations refused to play it at all. Result? The song reached number 48 on the Billboard Hot 100, which was underwhelming compared to the Stones' other hits. But the irony? Today's Street Fighting Man is regarded as one of their most powerful and enduring tracks. Do you think it would have changed history if more people heard it back then? Guess we'll never know. From protest anthems to rock and roll chaos, Jimi Hendrix took live TV to the edge of madness. And what he did next? Completely unscripted, straight-up anarchy. Number 6. Jimi Hendrix's Cream Tribute, Happening for Lulu, January 1969. Jimi Hendrix had a reputation for melting minds wherever he went, but what he did on British TV in 1969? Total rock and roll anarchy. He was supposed to play a nice, safe version of Hey Joe on Happening for Lulu, the BBC's primetime variety show. Instead, halfway through the song, Jimi stops dead.
We'll have to stop playing this rubbish and
dedicates the rest of his performance to Cream, who had just broken up, and launches into a ferocious impromptu cover of Sunshine of Your Love. Jimi kept jamming, blowing past his allotted time while the show's frantic director literally pulled the plug. The BBC banned him from future appearances. Not that Jimi cared. The tapes of the performance were erased by the BBC afterward. Standard practice at the time, but a bootleg recording of the performance surfaced in the 1980s, and it became one of the most legendary and sought-after pieces of Hendrix history. But while Hendrix was melting minds, another band was about to shatter the silence after a national tragedy. With a track so raw, many stations refused to play it. Number 7. Crosby, Stills, and Nash's Kent State Protest, Radio Band of Ohio, June 1970.
10 soldiers and Nixon coming, we're finally
on May 4th, 1970, 4 students were gunned down at Kent State University. The nation was reeling, and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young decided they weren't going to stay silent. Just 17 days later, they dropped Ohio, a raw, furious anthem that named names and demanded accountability. Lines like 10 soldiers and Nixon's coming were deemed extremely controversial. AM stations, especially in the Midwest, flat out refused to spin it. Despite bans, the song spread like wildfire, blasting from underground FM stations, protest rallies, and college campuses. At a time when artists usually played it safe, CSNY threw caution out the window and risked everything to tell the truth. It makes you wonder if today's artists have the guts to do the same. Now, raw is one thing, grotesque glam horror is another. Enter Alice Cooper, who turned a live TV concert into something that felt more like a haunted house on acid. Number 8. Alice Cooper's Shock Rock, ABC in Concert, November 24th, 1972. When Alice Cooper hit ABC's brand new In Concert series, network executives thought they were getting a cool, edgy band. But what they got was a full-on shock rock spectacle. Fake blood, guillotines, snakes, makeup that looked like it crawled out of a horror film. Mid-broadcast, affiliate stations in Cincinnati and other cities panicked, cutting away from Alice Cooper's set and replacing it with a random episode of Rawhide. ABC even got flooded with angry phone calls and bomb threats over Cooper's shocking performance. From that point on, every in-concert episode had to be pre-screened by local affiliates, just in case some other rock lunatic tried to melt Grandma's brain on live TV. The craziest part of all this was that Alice wasn't even trying to get banned. He just thought he was putting on a fun show with a little flair. But if snakes and guillotines rattled the censors, the next group personally flipped off the monarchy on a boat. Yeah, buckle up. Number 9. Sex Pistols' Royal Mockery. River Thames Stunt. June 7th, 1977. At the time, Queen Elizabeth II's Silver Jubilee was in full swing. Flags, parties, and endless patriotic parades. And what better way to crash the royal vibe than the Sex Pistols? They chartered a boat, appropriately named the Queen Elizabeth, sailed it right down the River Thames past Parliament, and blasted their scandalous anthem, God Save the Queen, at top volume. Lyrics like "The Fascist Regime" echoed across London, shocking tourists, enraging police, and causing pure chaos. The police stormed the boat, seizing their equipment, arrested the crew, and tried to make sure the footage never officially aired on British TV. The BBC outright banned the song, some stores refused to even sell it, and some newspapers called it treason. With this stunt, the Sex Pistols made it clear that punk was more than just a music genre. It was a cultural rebellion that mainstream society wasn't ready for. The boat ride was wild, but Elvis Costello's late-night rebellion hit closer to home. What he did on live American TV got him banned for over a decade. Number 10. Elvis Costello's Radio Switch. Saturday Night Live, December 17th, 1977.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there's no reason to do this song here. Radio.
Elvis Costello's Saturday Night Live debut could have been a disaster, except that it became one of the most iconic moments in TV history. Scheduled to perform less than zero, Costello started playing, but then abruptly stopped. He turned to the camera and said, "I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there's no reason to do this song here." In an instant, he switched gears, launching into Radio, a song that slammed corporate media directly, right in the face of NBC. The network executives went ballistic. Costello was banned from SNL for about 11 years, but his rebellious stunt made him a household name overnight. And just when you thought SNL couldn't get any weirder, David Bowie rolled in with a costume that had something extra swinging on stage. You'll see what we mean. Number 11. David Bowie's Marionette Phallus. Saturday Night Live, December 15th, 1979.
Uncage the colors, unfurl the flag.
David Bowie already knew how to push boundaries, but nobody, and I mean nobody, was ready for this. During his Saturday Night Live performance of Boys Keep Swinging, Bowie wore a giant marionette costume, with a mechanical surprise, a spring-loaded puppet phallus that popped out mid-song. Censors caught the controversial lyric, "Other boys check you out." They muted that, but somehow they missed the giant phallus bouncing around on national TV. No edits were ever made after the live airing, and to this day, it was one of the most surreal and hilariously uncensored moments in SNL history. Fun fact, SNL tried way harder to control rockers after this, but Bowie had already made TV history. Again. But before we wrap it up, there's one more story, about a single word that almost kept a now classic rock anthem off the air completely. All because of soda. Number 12. The Kinks' product placement sting. BBC radio ban of Lola, 1970.
It is just that Coca-Cola.
Lola is a classic Kinks track about a romantic encounter that isn't quite what it seems, but this classic almost never became a hit. Why? Because Ray Davies sang, "Tastes just like Coca-Cola." The BBC had strict rules against product placement, and Coca-Cola was a no-go. So, what did Davies do? He hopped a last-minute flight from the US to London, re-recorded the line as Cherry Cola, and then flew straight back to finish the Kinks' US tour. Crazy, right? All that effort just to avoid getting banned off the airwaves. Without that last-minute edit, Lola might have disappeared before anyone even heard it. Makes you wonder, how many legendary songs barely escape censorship's chopping block? Which of these banned or censored performances do you think caused the biggest uproar? Drop your pick in the comments down below, and if you love wild, untamed rock history, Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. We'll see you in the next video.